Last time on the breakdown, we had Phil Hellmuth making a multitude of interesting decisions in the Premier League with pocket eights. It didn't work out so well for him. I'm not going to tell you about that hand because you can just click right up there to see our breakdown of it, and also that gets us another view. That's great for us. So go ahead and watch that again, or watch it for the first time. Come on back here, and let's hear about your comments.
But for those of you who've seen the hand, I just have to remind them of one aspect of the hand which is important. On the river into 91,000. Phil bets 24,000, leaves 5,000 behind. He bets into Juha Helppi, and he's got 2 8s on a board with 4 overcards. It's a very strange bet.
Yes.
So let's talk about what y'all had to say about it.
Let's do that.
Nilak is what I'm going to go with, actually. 100 says, Hellmuth should never get to whine about being needled.
Yeah, at the end of the hand, Juha discusses a little bit what Phil said when Juha was tanking before he made his decision and how it affected Juha's decision. And I think Juha was mostly just being analytical.
Yeah.
But Phil felt it was kind of a personal attack and decided that Juha was needling him.
Yeah, Phil sees red as soon as he loses because he's a deeply emotional person. I'm not suggesting therapy. I'm just putting it out there. Anyone who might need that. But yeah, so he took this in a way that we really don't think Juha was saying it that way.
No, he's a nice guy, it seems.
Yeah.
I don't think he's needling.
He's like, if you hadn't left that 5,000 behind, I might have folded. He's just sort of saying that.
But the heart of this comment is that when Phil loses, he needles the crap out of people, a lot. So this guy is right. Phil doesn't really have a right to needle anybody. You know what? If you want to see Phil needle some people and even just be kind of a straight up jerk to some people, check out our biggest poker villains video that we just made last week by clicking up there.
It's super sweet. He even needles dealers, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
He finds a way.
He certainly does. He somehow is a poker pro who blames the dealer. How is this possible?
He's very emotional. All right, moving on. Kareem King asks, is it profitable to put the extra 5,000 in to knock out Phil Hellmuth of the tournament?
Okay, so this refers to Juha not moving in, instead just deciding to call, leaving Phil with 5,000 behind.
Yeah.
I don't think it is because I don't believe Phil's ever going to call with a worse hand than King-Queen. Even though it's kind of a weird thing for Phil to leave 5,000, I don't think there's really any point.
Phil is polarizing himself. Even with this tiny bet on the river, he's really repping a super strong hand, and he knows it. If Juha were to move in, Phil can't call, even though he's even leaving, as Grant's saying, 1.2 blinds left. It's just, 8s aren't good enough. Juha's never bluffing, and the one hand that we were beating on the turn comes in, Jack 10 on the river, because a Jack comes in.
If we're Phil.
If we're Phil, right.
Yeah.
And so it's just not a good spot because Juha just, everything's beating us. There's no hand Juha would ever be trying to rep and be bluffing here that's worse than 8s. It's impossible.
The only way I see Phil ever calling is if he's had a series of frustrations that were more extreme than he's used to.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just going nuts and he's like, I call, but I don't even really see that happening.
I will say that it does make that kind of a play an incredible bluff to do.
Incredible. I mean, that's a pretty hard bluff to pull off. It's pretty tough.
Super hard, but it is super
Giving
sweet.
your opponent 1 billion to 1 is not usually going to work.
No, because they usually call.
Yeah.
They usually call. All right, finally, Lukas Rogalski says, wait, so I cannot say that Hellmuth played a hand poorly because that'll hurt his trademark? Geez, what a jerk.
This is referring to a little bit that we showed from our conversation with Phil Hellmuth from back when we were called Hand of the Week.
Right.
Before we were the breakdown, we were Hand of the Week. The breakdown's a better name for what we do, actually, so we thank Phil in a way for helping us out. But after we did a hand called Mount Hellmuth Erupts, which was a really cool hand where Phil didn't look so good in the end.
No.
He then decided to follow us on Twitter, which was amazing. We were like, Phil follows 20 people. We just made it in the poker world. Yeah. It was only so he could DM us and tell us basically that if we ever started making money, which at the time we hadn't, that he might maybe look into his trademark because he has some old trademark on Hand of the Week from 2003 or something.
Yeah, he said he was going to protect his intellectual property. So if we made it big, he was trying to give us the courtesy of letting us know now so that we wouldn't have to change it once we had, quote, made it big. So we changed our name. That was a little bit of the impetus of it. We also thought Hand of the Week wasn't a good enough description of what it is we do. We didn't want people, just watching the videos thinking they were only going to watch a hand and not some analysis. So we thought the breakdown was better. But that was a clip, that little bit that we showed anyway, of our DMs where, he's being even a little, I'm going to say petulant.
Yeah, what is it that he said? We said we talked to our attorney, which we did, and we would like to see the patent. Could you please present the patent?
Right, show us the documentation. And he got, I don't know if he actually got upset, but it seemed he got upset from the tone of the DM. That's the bit we showed, where he said, why should I have to do that? That would cost me all this money. This is after he'd already told us to talk to our attorney, and we'd have to pay, of course, for that, to sort of verify his documentation in the first place. So the whole thing was weird, and we thought not a super surprising interaction with Phil ultimately,
Right.
based on what we know of him.
I mean, it felt like thinly veiled threats. Maybe that's not what it was.
Maybe not.
Who knows? Maybe he was truly being courteous because he didn't want to hurt us when we made money. But he would have the option to not do anything about that once we made money also. So I don't really know where that lies.
It's hard to know, but it isn't that Phil was threatening to sue us because we said he played his hand poorly. At least not directly.
No.
Some people have a theory. I'm just going to say some people. That because we were not super kind to him in that video, he saw it, didn't like it, and then was like, I'm going to show these guys. Almost like accusing Yuha of needling him. But it's possible that wasn't the case. We don't really know.
But there were no direct threats. That's very clear.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that Phil followed us just to DM us that stuff.